Hello again, and welcome back to the Fantasy Six Pack NFL Preview Podcast Series. I am your host, Travis Pastore. We're back for the episode 2. I'm joined again by our resident expert, Noah.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going good.
Before we get into the Miami Dolphins and all the fun that they have going on, you can find me on Twitter at @TheRealTravioli. Please follow me. I really would like to get that blue check and get verified. So help me out. You should also follow my friend here, Noah. Noah, where can they find your stuff?
You can find me at Noah Spurlock NFL. That's Noah Spurlock NFL.
So we're off to a good start. Today's team, the Miami Dolphins, one of the most confusing teams, I'd say, for the last decade. Never know what you're really going to get out of them. And they've made that no different this year with a interesting group of players that could either turn out great or, they're going to be drafting at the top part of the draft next year. And I think the best place to start, obviously, quarterback. They brought in Ryan Fitzpatrick. They have Fitzmagic on the team, and they traded for Josh Rosen, the Cardinals cast-off. Noah, what are they doing? Who are they starting? Who should I be drafting? And are they going to be good?
Well, I don't know what they're doing, but I do know that you should not draft either of them because, for one, we don't know who's starting, and two, neither of them are particularly good. So
okay, well, that was harsh.
Yeah.
But I mean, Fitzpatrick, he did have 17 touchdowns, 12 interceptions last year, only threw for 2,300 yards. He did have 11 of those touchdowns in the first 3 games of the year, the Fitzmagic era.
Yeah.
So that was fun for everybody, but kind of, I don't know how sustainable it is. Josh Rosen, 2,200 yards, almost 2,300 yards, 11 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. I got to say, he played on a terrible Cardinals team. It seems like he's the pick of these two just because he can't be in a worse situation than he was. And Fitzpatrick's old. I don't know how much magic he has left. Like, is it even worth trying to take a flyer on Rosen in maybe, I don't know, deep 15-team league as a backup?
Yeah. I think Josh Rosen is a good quarterback. I don't think Miami is the best place for him. It's better than Arizona, but it's not much better. I mean, they're obviously one of the rebuilding teams in the NFL, but I don't think Josh Rosen is bad. I don't think you'll ever get fantasy production out of him this year, but it can't hurt if you really have an open bench spot. I think Josh Rosen's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the year 2 quarterback leap is always something people are looking for, and that's kind of one of like the fantasy gold, if you will. Like if you find a quarterback who makes that year 2 jump, that pays off a lot. But I'm not sure Rosen. I'm not sure I want to put my money on Rosen for all those reasons you just said.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those reasons is he doesn't have a lot of guys around him. Doing some background research for this episode, you're like, where did all their skill players go? Like, how is this all they have?
It's not an impressive roster.
Yeah, spoiler alert, it is not an impressive roster, but please keep listening. I guess the biggest, most noteworthy name on their team is Kenyon Drake, who has some potential. They got Frank Gore out of there, so that'll help. He ran for 535 yards last year, 4 touchdowns, caught 53 passes, another 470 yards, 5 more touchdowns. That seems like a pretty solid baseline for a running back. And with, running back 1 carries, can we get a top 10 back out of him?
Yeah, for all the bad stuff I've said about the Miami Dolphins, I like Kenyon Drake a lot this year in fantasy. He's really the only running back in Miami, and he did score the 14th most points of any running back last year, and he's being drafted as the 25th running back off the board. I think people just think Miami is a big mess and they don't want anything to do with it, but I think he can score some value with Kenyon Drake. The old coaching staff was like for whatever reason, they're trying not to use him. They really didn't like giving him carries. But Brian Flores and the new staff this year, they're praising him. They're saying he looks good this year, and I think they're going to be using him more. So I think you should take Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, I mean one thing about this team is there isn't a ton of reliability. So if they do play Rosen, if they do play Fitzpatrick, one of them's going to be looking to check that ball down. And if Kenyon Drake's playing 80, 75, 80% of the time, there's going to be some catches there and yards. So by default, I feel like he has to get some stats. And you made great points about his draft position and his numbers. Those can only go up. So be a smart person and jump on Kenyon Drake. Like, nobody thinks about the Dolphins anymore. Like, you get a stud out of there for relatively cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And he's fast. If nothing else, fast players are good. That's the rule I live by.
He had 4.5 yards per carry last year. That's solid.
See, I have the great analysis of he's fast, and Noah has the actual stats. All right, moving on to wide receiver. Again, it's not super great. Two most notable names there would be former first-round pick Devontae Parker and Kenny Stills I think he was on the Saints before this. Devontae Parker, 24 receptions, 309 yards, 1 touchdown last year. I think he only played in like 10 or 11 games, so he's often banged up. Kenny Stills, a little better, 37 receptions, 553 yards, 6 touchdowns. He was in, Dolphins were bad last year, so that's pretty solid numbers for a team in flux. But are you taking either of these guys? I'm assuming if you're taking them, they're going to be late in the draft. But do you see them even being worth rostering, or is it just show me something before I pick you up off the waiver wire?
Yeah, I don't hate taking either of them in the later rounds. I think, like you were saying about Ryan Fitzpatrick, there are times when he can be really good, and if he is really good, Parker Stills would really benefit from that. And Kenny Stills, he's made some really good plays. I mean, 553 yards last year, like you had said. That's not that bad considering Tannehill's basically out the entire year. So, certainly, I think you shouldn't expect anything from him, but I really don't mind taking him at the very bottom of the draft and seeing if you could get something out of him.
Yeah, and I don't think either of these guys are Deshaun Jackson level good, but I don't think everyone's thought Deshaun Jackson would be as good as he was last year. Fitzpatrick made him kind of a star for a month or two there, so
for sure, yeah.
You might be able to get that. Fitzpatrick likes throwing the ball downfield. Parker and Stills are deep ball threats, so there is probably some potential there. But these guys have burned me too many times in the past. I've been drafting Devontae Parker for too long, and just seeing that questionable, he might play. He has a thigh injury. He got 1 target in the first quarter, and that's it. Injured players make me worried, but Parker does have the potential. This would be a very interesting year for him to break out, but I don't think I would take either of them just from being burned in the past, but Stills would probably be the guy I like a little better.
Me too, yeah.
Okay, on to tight end, which is quite an interesting smorgasbord. I believe they've got Mike Gesicki. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right. And I think Dwayne Allen is on the roster. Who knows what his deal is with his injury past. I feel like this is probably going to be a stay away, but what are your thoughts on the tight ends for Miami?
There is no reason to draft either tight end in Miami. I mean, Gesicki's only going into his second season. He didn't really show much in his rookie year. He had 202 yards and no touchdowns. And Dwayne Allen, he's never really been that good. I think he was in New England last year, and I think I tried picking him up for a week when Gronk was out, and he didn't show anything.
Well, if you're wondering exactly what his stats were, they're surprising. He had 3 catches for 27 yards. That's it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So not great. Okay, we're staying away from this tight end section too. Before we wrap this one up, and I feel like I know the answer, and I think the listeners do too, but you have to take one Dolphin. You have to have him on your team. Who is that going to be?
Yeah, I think I made it pretty obvious. I like Kenyon Drake a lot. I think I'm going to be drafting him a lot in all my leagues this year. I'm going to try to get him all the time. In 2018, he had the best receiving year of his career, 477 yards. He had 9 total touchdowns. I think, and he's being drafted as somebody you would put on your bench, but he's an every week starter in my mind. He's never missed a game in the NFL too, which is important.
All right, well, and draft question for you. Are you going to jump him up and take him ahead of his ADP, or are you going to try to let him fall to you?
Yeah, I would take him ahead of his ADP. I'm looking right now, and he's right around guys like Josh Jacobs, Sony Michel, Mark Ingram. They're all in the lower 20s. I would take him ahead of all those guys because I think you're what you're going to get with Kenyon Drake, and there's a lot of uncertainty with those guys I listed.
Okay, if we've learned anything today, don't take Miami Dolphins tight ends, and Noah is a Kenyon Drake superfan. All right, that wraps up the Dolphins. We'll be back with another AFC East preview pod real soon. But for now, I'm Travis. He's Noah. Thanks for tuning in.